All right, I started the recording.
Okay. We can edit, right? We can edit.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Maybe? Okay.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Let's yeah, we'll definitely I'll figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure,
It
for
can't
sure.
be that hard. Can't be that hard.
Yeah.
But hi listeners. Welcome to the first episode of Podliacci. I'm Evan. The gentleman to my
And
left here, his name is Rocco. And yeah, we're just gonna dive right in. We were just talking about how we have absolutely like really not no plan, but like uh not a I was supposed to make a Google Doc where we kind of just like have a guideline. I forgot to do that. But we're basically just going to yap. I mean, every episode we're kind of just gonna like yap about opera and singers and things we like, but this first episode, I mean, kind of just gonna introduce ourselves, I think, right? And
exactly. And mini sidebar, but I feel like it's very, in a way, on brand for us to not have any sort of outline of what we're going to talk about because the motivation for this podcast really came from, many car rides, many dinners at Chili's, many, you
that's
know,
right.
many discussions backstage about, you know, how much Evan and I love opera, how much we share in common, dreams, goals, aspirations. And, it was never planned. None of those conversations were planned. It was always impromptu. And those are always the best ones in my mind. So I'm super
No, you're
excited.
right, man.
To get going with this and
Yeah.
see where it takes us, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a long time coming. We had the idea in like November, and like here we
Hmm.
are finally like getting it together. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited. I've been looking forward to it a long time, and I'm excited we get to do this, and really happy that you're gonna do this with me.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, man. So, do you want to go first? Like, kind of talk about
Sure.
yourself?
Sure. Well, um, like has already been mentioned, my name is Rocco. I am a 23-year-old mergers and acquisitions consultant in New York, which, to the listeners, they're probably like, why is this guy talking about opera?
You'll
How
see.
is he even
You'll
related
see.
to opera? And it's kind of a long and winding road, but essentially, music was a very heavily emphasized part of my family experience. My father plays the guitar. My mother forced myself and my three brothers to be in church choirs my whole life. So singing has always
Mm.
been there, been a very big, important part of, a large Italian family culture. I played the piano for better part of 15 years. That's sort of where I got my background
That's crazy.
in technical music, and really first grew a love for classical music out of playing the piano. And when I was a senior in high school, on a dare, some people that I knew who were in the drama department said, "We think you should try out for Shrek the musical." And at that time, I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. And I guess I had an absolute blast. People thought that I had at least a, palatable voice. And so
You were
when
Farquaad,
I got,
right?
yeah, I was Lord Farquaad in
Dude,
Shrek
that's
the
so
musical.
funny. We both did. I don't want to cut you off. I was Pinocchio in Shrek
Yeah.
the Musical in 10th grade, so it's kind of funny. Anyway, go on.
So that's going to be a crazy footnote in a Met Opera program one day. Hopefully. But when I got to my freshman year of college and had enough positive reinforcement from other people, I decided to sort of explore the world of opera. I had gotten some exposure to it through piano reductions, rehearsals. There's a very specific piece by Franz Liszt, which is a transcription of the quartet from Rigoletto. And I loved that piece. And one of my favorite composers, Chopin, always talks about how Bellini and Donizetti really influenced his compositional style. So I listened to the recording of that quartet and I thought it would be super cool to learn to sing like that. Started out on YouTube, that's where I found out about vocal technique, which I had not even the slightest inkling of at the time. And the pandemic hit at just the wrong time. I had taken two voice lessons at Case Western Reserve, and that summer I sort of just dove into it, tried to teach myself as much as I could, and the rest is history. I met Evan through Opera Ithaca uh, as a studio artist. That's our
2 years
most
ago?
recent. Was it 2 years ago, man?
I mean, it was like the fall of 22, right? Yeah, the
Yeah,
fall of
all 22.
2022. So,
2 years ago, yeah.
yeah, that's wacky.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I'm at. Had a lot of great teachers along the way, and you know, my obsession has really, really grown.
Yeah, it's only gotten worse.
Yeah,
The level of
exactly.
obsession from both of us.
So I want to hear about you, man. I feel like I've heard your story to some degree or another, but I don't know if I've put it all together for myself or heard it in one timeline.
Dude,
So I'm interested.
every time I have to go talk about my journey, it's kind of like, dude, it's so much. I've been actually pursuing singing now for over 10 years
Hmm.
at this point. Like this summer, I'm 25 now. I started was my right before my sophomore. Anyway, I know it was 10 years ago. It's hard to kind of like place everything at this point
Yeah.
now, but like July 10 years ago, right? I sang like in choir in high school and things like that, but what got me into music first, my friend Stuart, who like, I owe all that to him because like he really encouraged me to join drama club and do drama club with him. Yeah, in seventh grade, he was like, it was funny, like he had me sing for him or whatever in gym class or something. He was like, dude, just, I was like, what? He's like, yeah, like you should do drama. And I was like, okay. And I sang like a Maroon 5 song or something, like down the octave, right? And he was like, you can carry a tune, you should do it. And I did it. And my first drama production was Once Upon a Mattress,
Classic.
right?
Yeah.
No, no, that's a lie. The first one was Once on This Island.
Oh,
I
okay.
always I mix up the words because I
Yeah.
did Once on This Island and then I did Once Upon a Mattress. Anyway, so that was middle school. I started taking voice lessons when I was 15. It was all about like musical theater, right?
Right.
So my favorite was Les Mis and
How couldn't
Phantom
it
of
be?
the
Yeah.
Opera, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like the red flag was there, man. It's kind of like if your favorite musical at that age is that, boy, do you have your trajectory set for you already.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate that my voice teacher at home is really fantastic and just talented soprano, and her house happened to be like 2 houses up from me.
Oh, what a
Like
luxury.
I'd
Yeah.
walk to my lessons,
Very nice.
and it
Very nice.
was it was really like just a weird meant to be thing, one of those things. And Stuart introduced me to her or whatever. Like, Stuart comes from a musical family, but I come from a very like arts family. My mom does. She went to school for like graphic design. She's a creative in like the visual arts field, and my dad's a drummer. So, I got the music
Go.
from my
Yeah.
dad. He's been drumming like forever, right? At that point, like I'm in high school, I'm doing drama club, I'm loving it, and like I'm doing voice lessons, and I could never sing high, and like also I unfortunately my choir experience in high school was like 50% or more pentatonics.
Oh God. Yeah.
So, and I was forced to sing bass too, because I was like one of the only dudes who could like depress his larynx low enough to like sing any low notes in high school. So like Eileen, my voice teacher is Eileen, she wanted me to, she trained me as like we sang like medium low, right? was kind of what
Yeah.
we were working on, right? And she's like, you know, maybe like baritone would make sense for you. She didn't really want to, she is smart. She never wanted to like fuckify me at that point at
Yeah.
that age.
Yeah.
But it was tough because like I'm trying to sing like Avi Copland's pentatonic bass lines, like 37 ledger lines below the bass clef. So like I'm never singing like even in like my middle voice, you're only singing in low voice. So it's like, like I had to really manipulate my voice to do that. And I kind of had that holding me to like really low all the time. And obviously my
Yeah.
voice lessons with Eileen were always great, but realistically, like I only have one voice lesson a week for an hour, then every week it's like five rehearsals, an hour each, of me going, like, and that's all I did. So that was a challenge. I'm like, oh, I clearly am a bass. Like I'm clearly like the bassiest bass in the world. That's why I can't sing high, by the way. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
clearly it's not a skill issue. It's because I'm actually like the next curtain mole. So, I really got myself into that pigeonhole. And spoiler, I'm not a bass for when we get to there in the story. But at a point in high school, I think I was going into my senior year. And, again, my voice teacher, Eileen, she was like, hey, I'm doing a couple operas this summer at this place that's like an hour away from us. Would you be interested in singing the choruses?
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Like I was down to do any stage thing. I never really listened to opera, I think at that point. I went ahead and did that, and the first one was it was Die Fledermaus in English,
Okay. Okay.
and that was such a fun show. And then the second in August of that season was Carmen.
Oh,
And I'm so scared when I actually have to sing Carmen in French because we sang it in English. And furthermore,
really?
we used the Schirmer poetic English,
Yeah.
which is really it can be so corny at times. It's it's so like in my head, that's like I the first chorus is like shady people, quiet people, where are they? I'm here now. It's like really corny. So
Oh my
that's going to
God.
be really fun. I'm learning that whenever I sing Carmen next. But
Yeah.
um, there's a moment, and I wrote my college application on this moment. There's that duet between Don Jose and Michaela in Acts
Yeah.
3.
Yep.
And like I'm it's a zits probe or whatever, right? Like we're just doing we're just music rehearsals, right? It was like the first day and just listening to these two like fantastic singers sing that scene, like I'm sitting there, I'm like I started crying. Like I'm like totally like crying in the club
Yeah.
in like this opera rehearsal because I was so incredibly moved. It was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I obviously I loved singing, and it's like again like alarm bells going off. I liked Les Mis the most out of all the
Yeah.
musicals, and it was shortly after then I realized like, dude, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I have to do it. I don't care. Like I have to do this. So I ended up, auditioning for voice performance for undergrad and ended up going to Ithaca College, and that's where I met Rocco, all those years later after I'd graduated. And now
Yeah.
the recent endeavor in my career and my journey is, I started finding out I am not a bass. I think that's where I'll
That's
stop.
nuts. Yeah. I
And
had
here we
never
are.
heard. Yeah, I'd never heard that story of you in the chorus in Carmen. Man, that's a great story. That's a great
Oh yeah,
story.
like I'll never like I remember it so vividly, man. I mean, it was just, I mean, it changed my life. It really changed my life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can't even remember the first time I had heard true operatic singing in person. If I'm being honest with you, man, it may not have been until Nabucco where I heard
that's crazy. Well,
two. Yeah,
it's like you started getting into it and then the pandemic hit.
yeah,
And
exactly,
then your voice
exactly.
teacher was like online
Mm,
content, and you
yeah,
really dove into all of that.
yeah. I mean, for any listeners out there who remember, this is opera. I mean, that's sort of where I started. Not the humble beginnings, to say the very least. It's funny to me because I'm you know in meeting you and in meeting other people, you know how much more I missed out on during my early vocal development. You know what I'm saying? Like I had no when I was learning the role of Lord Farquaad, let's say, I had no idea
Hey,
that
don't put some respect on that. Put some respect
greatest
on that.
role. It's my signature role,
He has two
honestly.
arias. That's
Two
your
banger
signature
arias.
role.
Honestly, there's like the second aria is like aria plus cabaletta. Like it's it's
No, it
it's the
is. It
duo.
really is.
You know?
No, it
Yeah.
really is.
He has his Di Quella Pira scene in Shrek the Musical. It's pretty much that. It's that simple.
Yeah. No,
uh, but yeah, but at that time, like as a senior in high school, I had no concept of the fact that like if I tried to yawn, my larynx would move down and it would make my voice sound different. I didn't know that. I genuinely really didn't know that until I was like a sophomore in college. You know what I'm saying? I knew it in my
Dude, I didn't know
head.
that until like last week.
And
Dude, like
yeah, that's part of it. Honest, like as I've started to figure things out for myself more and more, is like no matter how much you know and think you can execute on these technical principles, like we're still learning what it means to implement this in consistently every single day. At least I am. It's
oh
like
yeah, dude. I mean,
it. It's a
yeah.
crazy thing, right? It's like to me, lower your larynx should be such an easy directive, but it's so much easier said than done. Right? And I think the problem for me was I didn't have teachers in the beginning who really even directed me in something as basic as that. When I was working at Cornell for the first 3 years of my singing career, I never heard that once. And as soon as I sort of graduated out of that realm into like, you know, some more competent, areas of more competent pedagogues, essentially, they were like, I can't believe you never heard that before. And that really sucked, like to think that not that I'd wasted 3 years, but that, what could have been if I had, ever heard a piece of technical advice in my entire life.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, obviously better to learn late than never. But I don't know. That's one thing that I'm hoping to bring awareness to in this podcast, honestly, is like if you're not content with where you think you are right now, like I certainly wasn't. It almost made me give up singing, because I just could not figure it out.
Yeah.
Make the change, and hopefully some of the content that we talk about on this podcast will inspire you to make a change if it's necessary, and to embrace your voice for what it is and try and move forward. So that's a big part of my story. And like Evan, I'm a tenor, and nobody else has really questioned that except for one person. So, but now it's pretty well known. Really, really enjoyed the wealth of resources that exist here in New York City in terms of you know people who I've taken lessons with, people who I get to interact with, people who I get to hear sing on stage.
Yeah.
Literally, we could spend the next half hour talking about that Turandot that we went and saw at the Met,
Oh,
back in
yeah,
February.
that was super.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's just the surface of what exists in New York City. And I know moving to Boston, I'm sure you're gonna have a very similar experience to mine in terms of like, holy cow, there's like even more out here, you know. So
Yeah, I'm already gonna like try and go to every Boston Lyric Opera
yeah,
performance,
exactly.
but a bunch of them are
Right.
coming up. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, it's gonna be such a game changer to even have that access, you know? I will say truthfully, like what we had with Opera Ithaca was a very good opportunity, and
Yeah.
being able to hear and work with professionals who are active, like, teachers and like young, old, from like all different walks. I mean, it it was so great, and to like see how they carried themselves in the rehearsal room, and just hear all the different voices, and also being able to hear them like through the rehearsal process. And we sang chorus of Nabucco, and that's not a light opera. Like we did it
Yeah.
in a, the theater wasn't a huge theater or anything, so it's, that's more forgiving, but
It was a
like
very dead theater, though. Very dead theater.
yeah,
Just like,
yeah. Yeah, you can't just ask a regular Joe off the street to go sing the role of a Abigaila for like 2 weeks straight and then perform the role. Now being able to, like I'll definitely be taking the train to New York all the time to see stuff at the
exactly.
Met, but being able to, it's such a game changer because I feel like opera and this neck of the woods and singing and musicianship and music is just, I don't want to say gate kept, maybe like inaccessible,
Yeah.
is, going back to what you were saying about there's not one specific way to teach singing, and there's so people think, for better or for worse, of singing in so many different ways. There's so many different teachers, there's so many different approaches. It took me a while to start finding people that like I really, started to agree with online. But, I think if we could, through this podcast, like share our thoughts, or like, introduce people listening or watching to people like Michael Trimble's like YouTube, and like
Yeah.
all those videos, or like all the fantastic Jack Levine YouTube videos, like those made and still make, I listen to them all the time,
Yeah.
such a difference in a way they're hard to find. And I'm sure there's so many other people like that we don't even know about yet, and
Yeah.
I just feel like that's such as the nature of the beast, in terms of like how this art form can be a little hard to navigate
Yeah.
in a sense.
It's really true. It's very true. And, that's a huge part of what I'm hoping to sort of put out there as part of the podcast is like a big question that sort of outlined the vast majority of my vocal development was, who do I trust with my voice? And that's not something that I came to like very quickly,
Hmm.
but as you develop, as you start to get more and more passionate about the art form and about your potential to contribute to this art form, you start to realize that people, teachers, even just opinion holders start to have an effect on your voice, on your mentality. And I started to ask myself, who do I trust with my voice? And it's such an important question to answer because you can't trust everyone with your voice, and
No.
uh, yeah, for me, I've had to like, take some ideas from multiple pots, but then to have that one person who, when your voice is completely lost, that you can go back to and they will always have you fixed. Finding that person is just a very, cathartic feeling. And from there on, everything seems to go a little bit smoother. So find that one person, and
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, Evan and I spend probably an unhealthy amount of time on opera YouTube.
Oh
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we will have plenty of content recommendations throughout these
For
episodes.
better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse, take it or leave it.
the hard thing at the beginning is like, how do you even find out the voice teacher that you like and think is working for you? It's almost like a chicken or the egg situation where you're learning style, you're learning singing, you're developing your instrument. It's like you're developing all these different things at once. If you ask me a certain number of questions on, or if you even asked me like who my favorite singers were like 3 years ago, like I would give you completely and entirely different answers than I would today. And I say that because as you develop and learn all these things, it's tough to even know yourself what you think is good or is not, because
Right.
that's something you have to build.
Yeah, it's really true.
And that's really difficult, and that was probably one of the harder things to realize. And like, I'm still learning that, like, and I think that's really what being an artist is, like being able to you take in all this information. Like, Rocco and I have a lot of different sources that we like to listen to. And, you pick and choose what you like, you pick and choose what works for you. But, to be an artist is to like decide that you as an individual want to showcase these opinions that you formed over time. And the only way you can really do that is by doing.
Yeah, true
You
that.
can't really have like you can have the best voice teacher in the world, but like they can't just like open up your brain and just like impart
True that.
all of that in your head. You've got to figure that out on your own. And as I can't say what's his name. That makes me look horrible. Sherry Hadley said, "There are no guarantees."
Right. Yeah. And for me, this probably applies to you as well, is it took me a decent amount of time to figure out what I believed ideologically about the voice, right? Like, how should it sound? What is the purpose of my singing?
Hmm.
Took me a while to figure that out. And then you have to go from that idea about what singing is and what it should be to, okay, then how do I make it happen? And that is where things get muddy. And that's where you have to have the ability to listen to yourself critically and start to pick out, this is working toward my ideological goal for my sound, and this isn't working toward the ideological goal for my sound. And then it's about seeking out, well, who can show me something or help me learn something that's going to get me toward this idea that I've created. and
Right.
and um,
That's constantly
yeah,
changing.
it's constantly changing. It's constantly in process. And as you hear more and more stuff from more and more people, that idea of what you think singing should be and what it should sound like starts to change. So, in essence, what we're saying is we have no idea what we're doing. but I like to pretend, at least.
Oh yeah. So we've introduced ourselves. I mean, we started talking a little bit about like, what are we going to go over in this podcast? What do we hope to get out of this podcast? I'm excited just to be able to use this time to like obviously talk with my buddy Rocco, but I think it'll be cool for people watching to just be able to see like two people just figuring it out,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like living it and experiencing it. Who knows how quickly our journeys will progress, or what'll, you know, what lays ahead in the future for us. I think ultimately, like, we're two dudes who clearly have way too much to say about opera and singing, and like, not like we're not. Yeah, we're gonna yap, not for yapping's sake, but we love this art form so much. This is like how we're gonna contribute.
Yeah, and in my mind too, uh, to build off what you were saying, Evan, there's a lot out there, like I already said, that can influence you. Not in the realm of singing at all, but in terms of, oh, person X is doing this and person Y is in this, young artist program, and where should I be? Like, am I progressing at the right pace? There are so
Hmm.
many questions, that are almost impossible to answer when you're
Hmm.
going through this, and it's stressful. It can be stressful, super stressful, and at times you feel like you're alone. At least I did. And
Hmm.
Evan, personally, being able to converse with you about artistic progression was something that brought me a a lot of comfort and a lot of confidence in moving forward. And I think that I'm hoping that the listeners who are in our same demographic can get the same kind of reassurance and confidence that I got out of our initial conversations with you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of coming full circle here, in making our talks public. That we're two guys who are still very much figuring it out, and you know we're gonna bear it all for you guys and be super transparent. So that right, like uh it's okay wherever you're at, and like maybe you can pick out some helpful bits here and there to reassure you. So yeah.
What we're saying is we're gonna walk so you can run. So don't
Exactly,
waste
that's
this
exactly
opportunity.
what
We're being all serious right now. That's what we do as opera singers. Um,
yeah,
I do gotta mention, I mean, we're gonna be doing corny stuff, and we're gonna be just like goofing around, and we're gonna have, I really want to get people on here to like interview. Definitely excited to, maybe we'll start doing stuff like this next episode, but I really want to do like audience participation kind of
exactly,
things, like
like chat is
like
this
you
real
send
type
us
stuff. Yeah.
questions. Yeah, yeah, like questions from chat, opera
Yeah.
questions from chat. I'm excited for the segment Listen of the Week, because
Yeah,
we're gonna like really gonna get to just go like nerd out mode.
it's going to be musical potpourri for sure. And I'm yeah, super excited to see where the road takes us. But you did mention listen of the week,
I
and
did mention that.
I believe that maybe we have a listen of the week this week in the first episode. Perhaps.
I think this is what they in showbiz call a transition. So I think you're right. I think let's talk about our listen of the week. For me, no, I want you to go first. You brought up, so you go first, but my listen of the week is a little not completely just the week. This has been more of a month long endeavor because, like Rocco said earlier, I was moving into Boston, so there was a lot of
Very fair.
doing that. That took up my time. So I'm reaching maybe a few weeks back for this one, but I actually don't know what your listen of the week is. So please.
Okay. My listen of the week is going to be, I don't know how specific we want these to be moving forward, honestly, but mine is very specific, and I've been listening to it genuinely on repeat. And honestly, I've been listening to this whole opera on repeat for pretty much the last year and a half, and that is uh, a performance of Celeste Aida by Bergonzi, Arena di Verona, 1966, with Leila Genser. I'm going to be honest with you. I have never been like a huge fan of Carlo Bergonzi. He has some recordings where he sounds unbelievable. He has some recordings where I'm like, man, I don't know what you're really doing up here. You know, Lots of people sort of like criticize, how he used his head voice in the Akuti, whatever. I'm not going to focus on that. This particular recording of Celeste Aida is absolutely unbelievable, and it really speaks to Bergonzi's uh, ability as an artist, like we were talking about in
Hmm.
the beginning of the podcast. Um, the phrasing, the legato, but also I've never heard Bergonzi sing in such a stentorian nature, honestly. There's a part,
That's a good role to
you
do
know,
it in.
yeah, it's a perfect, right? You need it in that. And he
Yeah.
does it throughout the entire 2.5 hour opera, But it starts with Celeste Aida. And there's a part just before his first beef, or just after that uh, first B flat in the aria,
Hmm.
where he like gets into some declamatory type singing. He's a very bel canto, known for that kind of singing. And I was like,
Hmm.
holy cow! Like
Huh.
the barn door is wide open, and he is blasting it. Not to mention, Celeste Aida is, if not my favorite aria of all time, in the
Really? I
top
mean, well,
three. Oh,
I feel
it's
dumb
such a
saying
good aria.
really, but I mean, it totally makes.
It's one of those arias for me where it's like, if I don't perform it at some point in my operatic career, I might have to view it as a categorical failure. But let's let's not get ahead of ourselves. I love the aria.
Celeste, Aida, or bust.
Yeah, exactly. Celeste Aria or bust. That's where I'm at in life right now. So highly, highly recommend that you, Evan, and you, the listeners, take a listen to that recording. We will put the link in the description below
Yeah,
because
we can do
now
that,
we're
right?
like,
Right?
yeah, yeah, yes,
I don't
because I
think you get in
think
trouble for that, right?
no,
I don't know
we're
why
just
someone would be mad, like us just like posting their video.
right. As long as we're not like putting it in
As long,
our pod, yeah, I think if we link them to the video, it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
as long as we
should be
don't include in the comment, I made this video
yeah,
and I recorded it and it is mine, I think we'll be okay.
exactly, exactly. But I did not get a chance to listen to the full recording that you sent me for listen of the week, and I'm interested to hear how you approach this because you know,
Okay.
full transparency, we did not discuss how we were going to go about this beforehand.
No, no, we didn't. And it could be a completely different way we go about this segment in like 2 episodes and we'll be looking
Yeah.
back on that and like really like scratching our heads. But that's not what's important. What's important is that you all listen to this recording and I guess it's just the 2 pages specifically that I'm super obsessed with. But if you couldn't tell by the name of the podcast, one of my favorite operas is Podliacci, and I I mean really I've just been listening to the whole thing and really like just like dissecting it like more and more and more over the past months, but I just can't get over that 2 pages towards the end of No Pagliaccio Non Son,
Oh yeah.
where like it breaks into like the E flat major and it's like the harp part in two, like the
Yeah.
like that like I only need that 2 pages, man. Like if I'm being
Yeah.
honest, like I could listen to that every day for the rest of my life and nothing else and be good.
So true.
It is just so beautifully written for the voice and in the orchestra and like just I don't know, like obviously you would think I'd be talking about Vesti La Juba as my favorite or that as my but no, I mean I as much as I think that I mean it's the most famous line in opera arguably from that, but I mean that 2 pages is unbelievable. And they're like 4 or 5. There's so many recordings where I've just been listening to that excerpts there,
Yeah.
but I gotta say, like, I haven't found anybody that sings the, for the ascending line to the B flat, O
Yeah.
meretrice abietat, like,
Yeah.
nobody gets the, like, accents like Caruso does
Yeah.
in that recording. And
Hmm.
it's so unbelievably like that it's so hard. Like I mean that role is a monster sing even though it's like, just what an hour and change, But
Yeah,
that, I mean, that phrase is so difficult. And I mean, he's the only one and I'm talking about like fantastic singers, like listening to like Pav, Tucker, MDM, like
yeah,
uh Baum, and like Cruzo, like he just pours it on with those accents in it, and it's just an absolutely mesmerizing thing to me to hear him do that with like just the beauty of tone and like really laying it on thick with the accents there. It's like absolutely like I don't know. And for me, that moment, it just feels like it's almost like the whole opera is kind of heading to that. There's something that's really cathartic to me musically about that.
yeah. This is for real.
Yeah, it's like just an amazing moment. But I'll post that too in in the
And
description.
you know what stands out to me in my mind about both of our selections this week for the listen of the week is especially in the No Pagliaccio Non Son, but also in Celeste Aida, and what I love about the opera Aida and the opera Pagliacci is the librettos are so well written, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Like some of the phrases that you hear in No Pagliaccio Non Son, like I believed in you more than I believed in God Himself,
Oh
or like
yeah. I mean,
it's like these are
yeah,
such heavy hitting,
yeah.
the Italian diction hits so hard. It paired up with some of the best writing that either of these respective composers did, in my opinion. Paired up with incredible singers, right? It's like, holy cow, what do you want? And that's part of what I do with arias when I'm listening is I don't listen to the same interpretation over and over again. I listen to you know how Caruso does it, how Richard Tucker does it, how Corelli does it, how Mario Del Monaco does it, right? How some random tenor with 37 views does it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dead Tenor Society is a YouTube channel that you should
hmm
definitely check out. If you want to get into some super niche interpretations of arias, like, um, and that's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. So I really like that selection, and I know that one's been on your mind for a while because you
I
know
don't shut up
Evan
about
and
it.
I, yeah, we have a group chat where we just sort of send stuff at each other and at like some friends of ours in opera, and just talk about it, in a group chat, where the other two participants are probably like, you know, get a room. but yes, I've sent a couple interpretations of that aria. You've sent many, and
Too many. Too
never
many.
too many. Never too many. For me, never too many.
The thing about Celeste Aida, I want to say is like that's an aria to me that it's like almost it's got like everything in it to me when it comes to like the singing you're hearing. It's like you got beautiful like legato line. You have to sing like so gently and so
yeah,
like delicately. And then I also feel like it is a piece where like you can really interpret it. I feel like it's so you hear if you listen to Pop, you listen to Corelli, you listen to all these different singers tackle it. They do it in such a different way.
yeah, it's
And
really true.
I think that for me is why I really like that aria, and I think it's just such a rewarding listen for that reason. Like I don't think you're really gonna get the same Celeste Aida from the same two recordings.
Yeah, and it's a very virtuosic aria. Like, it doesn't appear that way, immediately on the page. But I've seen Aida at the Met 4 times now, and
Oh my, I thought it was two.
to watch somebody get up on that stage and they have sung two total, like 5 note phrases in the entire opera, and they open the opera with this aria. You feel nervous for them. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I don't usually feel nervous for a professional opera singer, but whenever somebody walks out there to sing Celeste Aida, and just the magnitude of it, right? The context in which it's happening, especially in like a production like at the Met, right? There's massive sets going on, right? Like,
Hmm.
and this is Verdi's sort of, I would consider it his magnum opus, right? It was his challenge opera to Wagner, essentially saying, "Hey, you want to include all sorts of art forms within an opera? Like, I'm gonna one up you and have live horses in an opera."
Right, like I'm gonna put elephants on stage
Yeah,
just to spite you.
exactly. And it's so with all of that, sort of contextualizing Celeste Aida, it's like the gravity of the moment. And maybe it's just in my head. Is it's like, wow, this is really happening. And that the final phrase in Celeste Aida, "Un trono vicino al sol," with the diminuendo.
Yeah,
Heard Brian Yade actually do it at the Met with that diminuendo, and I was like,
really?
it genuinely made me cry. Yeah, because
Wow.
not only it's like one of those like laugh cry situations where like you chuckle and start to cry because it's like, I cannot believe that that sound can be made, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it fits perfectly in the meaning of the song and in the phrasing of the aria, right? And so to hear it executed, whether it be by Corelli, Yade, Kaufman, whoever it is, um, it's just crazy. And yeah, I love that aria. I'm gonna stop before I take over the rest of the episode.
Man, I'm excited. Episode one, we've done it now. We've recorded it. We know we can do it.
Same here. I mean, and it's easy. It's easy, right? Like it's just us broadcasting a conversation that has happened a million times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun for me anyway. It makes it fun for us. Is it's just like it's I'm so natural. This is what we love. This is what we love to do,
Yeah.
and I'm very excited. To see where this show goes. Because we have a lot of hopes, a lot of hopes. Already thinking
Yeah,
about
we do.
some people who we could get on this show. If things go in the right direction. So lots of hopefulness, and we hope that the listeners enjoyed this first episode, whether it was a hot mess or a smashing success. Uh, hopefully,
'Cause
feel
it's
free.
art. It's art. Is can art ever really be wrong? It's all
Exactly.
subjective. So
Yeah, facts. Do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree, or?
you
Yeah.
exist in the podcast that was recorded and edited.
On
Guys, I
August
don't know the quote. I'm just gonna
18th.
stop
Yeah.
there.
I guess stay posted. Um,
Do we
for more
want?
content. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, we got plenty more coming up. Um, go follow Rocco's Instagram page, Frat Dude Sings, right?
Yes. At frat.dude.sings. Highly recommend you check it out.
On
Um,
Instagram.
say again.
On Instagram.
Yes, on
Like, don't you have to
Instagram.
say where?
Yes, we are on Instagram. At Frat Dude Sings.
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna make a. I think I should make a Podliacci Instagram,
page.
right?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
make
that's
a
a good
page
idea.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will make that at some point. So when I do, I'll let you know and go follow it. Um,
Yes.
but do we wanna maybe next episode we do like audience questions
Yeah,
segment.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
yeah,
So you can comment on the video below, or we will put something up on the Instagram.
yeah,
Uh, Again, ask us anything type vibe on the Instagram page, and
yeah,
you can
yeah,
submit your questions there.
yeah.
You
We'll
can
pick
DM us
a few of them.
questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we can go through questions next time. That sounds like a great idea. I love answering questions.
Yeah, and they can be I mean, as related, as unrelated. They can be about us. You can be like, I mean, ask whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
I'd be lying if I say that like Rocco and I aren't going to talk about the Yankees like every once in a while
for
on the
real.
podcast. Like it's our podcast. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're gonna talk, but like obviously, like you know, we're our own
And
bosses here.
yeah.
Like I'm gonna talk
Yeah.
about the Yankees. Like you just
Which, by the way, Aaron Boone, if you're listening, please invite us to Yankee Stadium to sing the national anthem next year. I'm begging you. And to Hal
yes.
Steinbrenner, if you're listening, I love that you play the Robert Merrill rendition of God Bless
Oh,
America. Clearly, you know good operatic
yes.
aesthetic.
Yep.
And he was a
Yep.
stalwart in the New York community. So, I mean, just a double whammy there, Hal. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. Every time I hear that recording, man, I'm just like, they know. They get it.
They know.
They get
And it hits even harder after, you know, three tall boys during the seventh inning stretch. That's when people at Yankee Stadium are like, wait a second. Oh, this guy might be able to sing. Yeah. So lots of topics coming
Yeah,
up. Lots
man.
of,
Yeah, man.
including but not limited to the Yankees.
Yes. So, yeah, this is us wrapping it up. I know, the professionals always have like an outro thing. We're also working on that. We're not going to
Yes.
tell you when we have it. It's probably just going to happen. And, you'll see it, you know? But for now, thank you for watching. We'll see you the next time. Follow our social that we
Yes.
have. Like, subscribe. What would they say now?
Comment.
Turn that bell on. Comment. Was it hit that bell for like
Hit that bell
what
icon. You gotta
what's
hit
that
the
do?
bell icon.
Notifications?
Notifications
I'm
on,
not that
right? It
old, I
helps you.
promise. Like I get
Yeah.
technology. Like I promise.
And it's come to my attention that over 90% of the users watching this video are unsubscribed.
Yes.
So yes, find us on Instagram. Spread the word. Spread the word. Friends, family, people
Yes.
who know opera, people who don't know opera,
We want
people
you here
who
as much as the people who don't, by the
yes,
way.
exactly.
We're like the gatekeeping is like it's over. We're over it. It's boring.
Yes,
It was never fun. Bring Uncle Joe
yeah.
to listen to our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Let's democratize this, right?
Yes.
No more gatekeeping.
No
No
more.
more.
No more. We're done. We're done with that.
Yeah. We're
So,
dismantling it. We're dismantling.
yes. Yes. We're abolishing gatekeeping.
Yeah. We're us two alone. We're gonna do it with your help.
Bye, everyone. I mean,
We
you can
will
see
have the
my
outro
blurry
soon.
hands. Yeah. Yeah. See you next time.
Keep singing.
Yes. And we will too.
Exactly.